everyone, and welcome back to Binge Battle. My name is Mark Ellis, and today's show, boy, we are talking about, I don't know if recency bias is a real thing with me. It probably is. I'm going to say it's one of my favorite shows of all time. One of my favorite shows of all time, even though we're just one young season into it, and that would be Severance, starring Adam Scott and company, directed by Ben Stiller, and it is just a mind-blowing, great examination of something that we really haven't delved into in this modern world of all these multiverses, where we use that as a way to tell a cool, unique story. Now we get something that feels truly original with Severance. And if you like originality, I have two great panelists here to debate and celebrate all things Severance. But before we meet them, friendly reminder and a word to the wise: this is going to be spoiler heavy. So if you've not yet seen Severance, trust me, you can get spoiled on a lot of things that you don't want to have revealed that way. So go ahead and hit pause on this, go check out Severance, and come on back when you're ready to join the party, even if there is no more melons, as I'm told. So let's bring in our great panel. First and foremost, this gentleman writes some funny stuff that I say from time to time. He also is one of the geniuses behind Screen Junkies Honest Trailers, and he is the father of Taco. Lon Harris, returning favorite, is back. Hello, Lon, and hello, Taco. So
Taco the dog doing a little maintenance, little paw maintenance right now.
That's the dogs are self-cleaning entities, and that's one of the main reasons
has to be done
why we love them. So, Lon, my question for you is: I see you on Twitter. You're a great follow on there, and so when we talk about social media and things that sort of pick up steam, it feels like Severance was one of those. So, when did you get on the Severance train? Was this something you heard about and wanted to check out, or did you wait for word of mouth to sort of get into your head?
You know, I had seen trailers, and I like Ben Stiller as a director. I mean, Cable Guy, obviously, Tropic Thunder, Reality Bites. Like, I remember his stuff from way back. So I was always intrigued. But I don't know. I guess my initial assumption was this was going to be more like of a workplace satire. Like, and it has elements of that. You know, like making fun of working for a big company and how they sort of treat you. All of that is threaded into the show, but it's so much more than I thought it was going to be based on those initial impressions. So it took me a few weeks where I sort of was jumping in and watching a lot of other stuff. It was like, oh, I'll get to it. And then I started to hear like, this Severance show is pretty cool. You should maybe check it out. And I jumped in. I think it was like probably week 3 or 4 that I got on board.
Yeah, it's the same thing I was telling people is you got to make it through the whole first episode and then just sit by yourself with your emotions and decompress. And then if you still want to check it out, which I think you will, then go ahead. The easiest way for me to sell it is like it's the darkest, scariest version of the movie Office Space. And we kind of start there, but then we go to all these different worlds that you are going to talk about, your favorites, your least favorites, what worked for you most in the show, against another one of our dear friends here at Binge Battle. She is a correspondent for Rotten Tomatoes, and you see her on red carpets coast to coast, including very recently, she was at the Met Gala. Now, this is Naz Perez. Naz, I want to ask you a question about Severance, but first, I saw the dress that you were wearing at the Met function. You're there. Do you go out on the town wearing a dress like that? Are you able to function when you leave the gate, or do you have to change into something that's a little easier to move around in?
Oh my God. As soon as that thing's over, I like literally rip it off like a kid about to go into a swimming pool, and I throw on my sweats and I just beeline it to Joe's Pizza in New York.
That's how you play ball. Yeah, that's how you play ball, and really in New York in general. If you see somebody in sweats in Joe's Pizza, it could be Naz, could also be me. You just never know. Now, when we get to Severance in particular, when did you first come about this show? Were you one of the people like me who saw it week 1 and is like, everybody needs to see this? Or were you a little bit of a late arrival?
I think I was a little bit of a late arrival, which is surprising because, you know, this is like, you know, we get paid to watch television, which is like such a dream. But my story is similar to Lon's, where I saw it was coming out in an article. And my first thought was like, oh, Adam Scott in a rare lead role. That's interesting. The last time I really like saw him was like in Big Little Lies as like Reese Witherspoon's husband. And I was like, I really like Adam Scott. I want to see him lead a show. That's interesting. But just like Lon, I thought it was like, oh, another The Office, you know, another sort of satirical workplace drama. I had no idea it was a thriller. And then thank God I have great taste in Friends. going through Instagram story. So like a couple people were like, this finale's insane. Mind blown emoji, mind blown emoji. And I was like, wait, the finale to like this workplace thing's insane. Googled it. It's a thriller. Turned on episode 1. I was literally a middle school kid in the back of a classroom watching episodes on my phone in between my workday. Like, when's the last time it has been so long since I've done that for a show. And this is why I love television. And I can't agree with you more, Mark. Severance is my favorite show of like recent times. Truly. I haven't been as excited since Succession season 1, I think, about a show.
Yeah, I'm in the same group. And actually earlier this year, Yellow Jackets was really good. And I was like, ooh, is Yellow Jackets my new favorite? And then Severance has come along and it's like, well, now I can't even decide. Like they're coming too quickly now.
Yeah.
I can't even pick anymore. I really feel like it was the opening credit sequence. The first time I saw that amazing, the opening titles, and you get like so much of the vibe of the show is kind of communicated in a weird way. And even as soon as I saw that, I was like, well, this is the greatest thing. Like I'm totally sucked in.
100%. And what's so great about this golden age of television we're living in is that now all these opening credit scenes are like unskippable. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Peacemaker.
Oh yeah.
But I watched Severance and I was like, this is so my vibe. I don't know if you guys know who Boss Logic is on Instagram. Yeah, like I was like, did Boss Logic creatively do it? Like it was so just in the zeitgeist of coolness that I was in as well once I saw that.
I feel like you both are firmly entrenched inside that zeitgeist of cool. And so now you see how much they love Severance, everyone. This is going to be a fun episode. And hopefully we'll be able to keep to our normal running time. Again, this is how Binge Battle works. If you're new, welcome. We have 4 rounds prepared in which each of our panelists is going to give an opening argument that can go up to 60 seconds or so. And then they have a rebuttal that's about 30 seconds, then a final statement that's about 10 to 15 seconds. And then they drop the mic and it is up to me to be the judge, jury, and point giver to one individual whose argument stood above the rest, meaning they get the point and the other person doesn't. Should we be tied after 4 rounds, we do have a sudden death tiebreaker round that we'll go to. We will break that glass in case of emergency. So now let's get into it. The characters, the plots, the thickening of said plots, and maybe what we're looking forward to in season 2 as we kick off Binge Battle right now with round number 1. And your topic is the best episode. It really all runs together as one long piece, but what is the best episode of Severance? For that, we start with Naz Perez. Naz, 1 minute on the clock for your best episode of Severance.
Okay, I'm going to go so fast on this one because I forgot that there was so much I had to say about Severance in general. I just want to say real quick that I think Apple TV is literally slaying at life because they just won the Oscar for Coda. And I think the people that are picking shows at Apple TV are so like, I want them to swipe through my dating apps because every single thing on that is like literally a hit. Created by Ben Stiller. The cast is so stacked. It's like this perfect island of misfit toys, like Adam Scott, John Turturro, who's like, we'll talk about him later. And also just the fact that this show is just so meta in general, like we are living through the Great Resignation. So the fact that our work and home lives are so blurred, like right now I'm literally working and I'm at home. Just the concept of separating your work and home life to me is chef's kiss. Okay. So best episode to me is the finale, the We Are. It is so engrossing. In the first 5 minutes, we see the innies finally in the Audi's body, which in the first 5 minutes, you're just like massively hooked. Mark's with Mrs. Cobell of all people, and you're just like so scared for him. Irving is like listening to Ace of Spades. He's like painting the hallway that Miss Casey goes into. There's so much intrigue the entire time leading up just to the finale. You're like, what's happening? Helly is an Egan? Like what? Nobody saw that coming. And the fact that we saw Egan's just so perfectly woven through the storyline. And then that payoff was so good because I had no idea that that was going to happen. The heightened emotion is like no other. The unraveling of the episode is must-see television. I think the finale cemented it as like one of the best shows of all time. I mean, I think I'm out of a minute, but I have like so much more I could say. Mark, I don't know. I'll let me know if I can keep going.
Don't worry, you're gonna get a nice 30-second rebuttal to fit all of the rest of that into. But you're right. The season finale was sort of like it was like the whack-a-mole version of your mind being blown because I kept reforming my mind and then it would keep exploding, and the shrapnel was just everywhere, all around my palatial estate. So now let's go to Lon Harris for your best episode of Severance.
I went with episode 7, Defiant Jazz. I feel like this is really where the show makes a turn, and it's Zach Cherry's brilliant performance as Dylan is sort of at the core of this. At the end of episode 6, he has this incredibly significant moment where his innie is woken up in the outie world. He sees very briefly a child that he, obviously is his son. He's woken up by Seth Milchick at his home very briefly, and it totally changes his perspective. And he goes from sort of the comic relief character to the driving force behind their rebellion. This is also the episode where Irving sort of gets on board with messing with the rules because of Bert, his sort of untimely retirement. He's losing his close friend Bert. So I think this is where the show really takes you on this turn, and it becomes going from more of like a satirical comedy thriller to a straight ahead thriller. And I think it manages that so great. It also has, we'll talk more about the music and dance experience. I think one of the highlight sequences from the entire show also comes during this episode, a really brilliant whole segment, the way that Ben Stiller's direction, the editing, the performances, the production design all kind of really come together to create this totally otherworldly environment that is Lumen and this office. And I mean, that episode to me was just a perfect balance of everything Severance does well.
Yeah, out of a show that's given us quite a few gifts to use, I imagine the dance party is the most popular one that people are going to be sending
Definitely
to each
memeable
other.
for sure.
So good. It's so good.
Naz, we're going back to you to stump a little bit more for episode 9, the season finale.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we all love movies and television, right? And it's that heightened emotion it is so hard to achieve. And like I was saying earlier, was just perfectly like hooking you at the beginning and taking you all the way to the end for 45 minutes, I think is really hard. Like I was saying, Mark is with Mrs. Cobell. You're like, what's happening? Then we realize that Irving's outie like somehow has a map to Bert's house. And like that to me was also so like, it was just so good because Irving, I mean, there's so much I'm going to say later, but he's like driving. We also, a baby stolen and we think the baby's like going to die. And then Helly like tells all of Lumen that basically the innies are being tortured. And then the episode ends and you're just like, oh, I just needed season 2 like yesterday. And to me, it's like, that is why I love TV. And the finale, the We Are, should honestly be a ride at an amusement park, because it was just so thrilling and I think just A+ must appointment viewing television. And that's why I think it's the best.
Yeah, the fact that it took all these strands of everybody's different stress level boiling over around the same time and was able to tie them all up together and then give us something so intriguing to look forward to next season. That's quite an accomplishment. But Lon, you're pretty set on episode 7, the Defiant Jazz.
I mean, I think it's an interesting question because we're sort of discussing like, to me, episode 7 is the biggest setup episode. It's where all of these threads are kind of being laid so that they can pay off in the finale. And I also think episode 7 is really where we start to ask a lot of questions about what's really going on with Lumen. What is weird about the outside world, which is for a lot of the first season, we're sort of asking all these questions about the innies. And when we're with the outies, that's our time to like get answers. And well, now we're in reality, so we can get more of a perspective on what's going on. But I think episode 6 and to some extent, but more so 7, is where you really start to get the sense that like, no, there's something deeply wrong with this outside world, like these birthing cabins and this state senator who's aligned with Lumen and all of these sinister forces sort of on the outside. And it's also where you start to see, Mrs. Selvig or Harmony Cobell, whatever her name is, and Seth Milchick and all these people who work for Lumen. They're also kind of coming apart, and they're maybe not as together as we would have assumed in earlier episodes. Right. And I think that's what's so great about episode 7 is really deepening all these mysteries. Whereas episode 9, as Naz said, I mean, it's a great episode and it's pure payoff. It's 45 minutes of this, then this, then this. It's obviously an editing masterpiece, but I see that like, I don't even feel like you could do episode 9 unless you had all of the careful establishment of episode 7.
Yeah.
I mean, you really have an issue where it's like, do you like the setup or the payoff better? And I'm still trying to figure that out between your two great arguments. So now it's time for your final statement, starting with you, Naz.
Well, I think you said it perfectly, Mark. Is it the setup or the payoff? And I think we've all invested hours of our lives into shows like Lost, right? Into things that don't pay off. And I think you have to stick the landing, and sticking the landing is what makes you an A+ television show. over not. And to me, the finale it's just one of the greatest finales we've seen in recent history on television. And for that reason, I stick by my answer. The We Are is the best episode. And it's the episode that's going to make everyone come back, because that's what you need in order to sustain everyone's attention these days. Like there's so much unanswered in that last episode, but so much that still happened. And sometimes we get a lot of unanswered, but nothing really happened. But this was like everything, everywhere, all at once.
Not a bad movie there. Lon Harris, you have the final say in round one.
I mean, I think to me, when I was going through the episodes to try to pick, 7 stood out, I think, largely because of the performances. We're gonna talk a little bit about Seth Milchick and what an incredible job Tramell Tillman is doing in that role. This was also, I think, Zach Sherry was incredible in this and really nailing the turnaround. There's that great moment where Irving is sort of explaining to Dylan, like, well, in a way, it was really not your son because it's sort of your outie son and you're the innie. So, and he just kind of gives them this very ice cold, like, he's my son too. And I think just nailing that turnover. So, and Irving too, Turturro is, I know we're going to talk about this momentarily as well. Turturro is incredible in that scene where he realizes Britt is leaving. And for him, it really is like a death when an innie goes away. He's never going to see him again, as far as he knows. So to me, that's really what made episode 7 sort of. 9 was really the directing, the editing all came together. 7 to me was really where we got to sort of know all these characters on a deeper level.
Right.
This is why I love both y'all dearly, and why this is also going to be some level of torture for me, is that I feel like if I underwent the operation that is in Severance and I had like the lumen mark and the outside mark, the innie and outie, I think that mark could make 2 completely different points manifest just based on how great these arguments are. The way that I'm looking at this is that what I loved about episode 7 was that it did deepen the mythology and we got to know these characters and it fleshed them out even more when we already thought we knew them pretty well. And I got to wake up the next day knowing I had more Severance coming the next week. The issue with episode 9 is that, but it left me wanting so much more. Having said that, it did the rarest thing that a season finale can do, is it answered most, if not all, of your questions that you had from season 1, but then it presented a whole new array of worries and concerns and tasks that we need to get figured out in season 2.
Well, we still don't know about the goats. Still a question mark over these baby goats. I will throw that out.
It was just a great season, start to finish, and these are 2 of the highlight episodes. But just because it is so hard for TV to stick the landing these days, it was a great setup. But I'm going to go with that massive payoff that we got in the We Are. Episode 9, the finale. The point goes to Naz Perez, and we move on to round number 2, where our topic is the best character. Who is the best character in all of Severance? My God, this is going to be another barn burner. Could it be the baby that we thought was going to get stolen and we didn't know what was going to happen to it? Let's find out, starting off with Lon Harris.
I think Seth Milchick, played by Tramell Tillman, he is the sort of the enforcer in the office, like kind of like the HR guy, the manager, but he's not severed. So he's one of the fascinating characters that kind of comes and goes with one consistent consciousness through the doors of Lumen. This is such an incredibly effective villain. And I feel like what the show's whole critique of corporate culture and the workplace and how we think about work in America in 2022 is all kind of summed up in Seth Milchick. And I think what he does so well is he really drives home the existential horror of working at Lumen. The idea that for your innie, you never leave the office. You don't have any of the things that we're used to experiencing in the normal world. And one of those things would be like, so all of your communication is corporate communication, like the way you would talk to your manager at work, as opposed to your friend or a parent or a loved one, or, any of the other kinds of communication we're used to doing. Innies don't have that. They only have this one kind of communication. And I think he does such a great job of summarizing what that kind of communication is like, where it's very pleasant and everybody's always smiling, but also telling you things you maybe don't want to hear, or massaging things so that you take a certain, like corporate culture is very like buttoned down and sort of pre-planned, and it's not authentic. And I think he really captures that he's very kind and friendly, but in an inauthentic way. but without raising his voice or getting violent, he never pushes it over the line. He always stays professional. And it's not an easy thing to do to keep that consistent through every episode. And I mean, the guy just nails it. He's really scary when he needs to be.
Wow.
Yeah. Hearing your argument just reaffirmed my life choices from deciding to be a comic who does not have to ever work in an office, because I still just get this weird tingle when I walk in one. I don't want to be anywhere near that place. How about you, Naz Perez, your favorite character? Who's the best in Severance?
Well, I'm just sitting here marinating on Lon's thoughts because Lon, I just love what you said. And that really resonated with me because I hadn't thought about that before. And I always think when I watch a performance, I'm not an actor, but I always try and picture what I would do. And I think Milchick's performance on paper, I wouldn't have known how to play that. And I think he literally played it so well. It was so unique and different and stern, and just walking that line, exactly what you're saying, how we all deal with this in corporate America. And even though, Mark, I don't have a boss either, but we have companies we work for where people are friendly, but and you think you're friends, but it's actually a transactional relationship. You're actually a client and you can get fired the next day. And Lon, I love what you said, but I got to go with John Turturro. I got my notes up because I got to give credit where credit's due. John Turturro is a national treasure. I believe he's America's best kept secret. The man can play anything, every key on the piano, from like the Night Of to the Batman to this. His innie is my favorite. When we first meet him, he's this stickler, this perfect employee, has this love for the company and its history. And I think that can be annoying to some people, but for me, it was actually very endearing. Like, people like that make me laugh, that are just such rule followers. Like, I'm the type of person that gets the clear cup at Taco Bell and I put soda in it. You know what I mean? So people like this that are sticklers, and it's just, I love it. I love it. It was like a little Larry David-ish to me. His entire arc shows that he has this deep passion inside of him that's wanting to come out. His connection with Bert is honestly all I needed. Like, I need a Grace and Frankie spinoff called Bert and Irving Stat. Burving needs to go in the Hall of Fame of workplace TV romances. The on-screen chemistry between Christopher Walken and John Turturro was like, and have we ever seen two men over the age of 60, like, explore their sexuality, form deep romantic connections with one another? It's so rare. They approached the role with like such care, and the payoff was incredible because they were really like, their relationship was so crucial to so many story points. It's like, that's when they realized, why isn't macro data refinement talking to O&D? Like, that was all a myth. And it's their connection that causes him to be more rebellious, Irving. And in a way, he's sort of like the missing piece of the puzzle, and then he finally decides to join the other three. And just like you said, in Defiant Jazz, that's when you feel like it's on, like when all four of them are walking and you're like, here we go, screw these archaic systems. But anyways, his Audi is also my favorite because when we dip into his world a little bit, and I think his Audi is the one we know the least, I'm like, this man's got style. This man's got a dope car. He's an artist. He's listening to Ace of Spades. He's also smart. He's like a war hero. To me, he is the most interesting. And when John Turturro is on screen, I just cannot look away. I can't.
Yeah, we knew something was going on when he would have those moments, those episodes where he just like pass out and fall asleep, and then he's right back at it. And we're like, how does that connect with the dirt under his fingernails? And now we find out the guy loves Motorhead, so Irving is all A+ in my book. But both of these arguments are fantastic. I can't wait to see where they go next. Juan, you're up first with your rebuttal, stumping for Milchick.
I mean, it's hard to knock Turturro. Turturro and Walken, I agree with everything that was said. Both brilliant in this. And the Turturro in that final episode, it's worth noting, almost no dialogue. I mean, maybe no dialogue until he's yelling Bert's name at the very end. It's all just body language and facial expressions. Yes. Incredible stuff. Who could say how to pick? The one other thing I would say about Tillman is it's also a really funny performance. Like, he gets a lot of laughs out of Milchick and his kind of being, so sort of uptight and trying to manage this increasingly out of control workspace. And then again, not to go back to the same episode over and over again, but during the music dance experience in Defiant Jazz, it's really funny. His way of trying to engage with everybody. He's also playing this ambiguity that's really fascinating of how much is Seth just kind of not good at his job and sort of screwing up and leaving all of these threads for these folks to figure out, but how much of it is part of the social experiment that he's conducting and that Lumen is conducting. He's good enough at playing all of these things kind of close to the vest, and you really never know for 100% sure how much is Seth sort of in on this and how much of it is kind of things are flying too quickly for him and he can't kind of keep up. And that's not an easy sort of balance, I think, to maintain that the show keeps really well.
You're just making me want to go back and rewatch this like today. So that's probably going to happen later on tonight. Naz Perez, back to you for your rebuttal, talking about your boy Irving.
Oh, Irving. I love them so much. I love them. First of all, I have to say, Lon, and I've never disagreed with you up until this point. I didn't laugh at like any of Milchick's things. I don't know if that's just me. I found them like, I mean, it's nothing on his performance. It was just like uncomfortable for me. Like I never found them like laugh out loud funny in the way like John Turturro, talking like when Christopher Walken's like, I've never met another sophisticate. You know what I mean? Like that, those were like the moments of levity and laughing for me. But I agree with you. Even when Milchick like screws over Miss Cobell, I'm like, oh, like this guy's killing it. But again, I got to go back to Irving. I mean, the juxtaposition between his innie and outie to me, as Kim Kardashian did not say to her sister Kourtney, is the most interesting to look at. Like, I believe the most obedient employee that was such a stickler. And then to find out that his outie is like somewhat infiltrating the company and has these maps and knows where Bert lives. Like to me, there's so much there to unpack. And like you said, I mean, you made this argument for me. He says almost nothing in the finale, and he does so much with so little. It's like what you say when you walk into a museum, you're just like, it says so much by saying so little. And I think John just kills it. And Irving, I'm just team Irving all the way.
And at the risk of sounding too much like Indiana Jones, both of these performances belong in a museum. So let's go back to Lon Harris for your final statement. Close it up for us.
I mean, to me, the Irving outie images that we've seen so far, it's almost just a tease. We kind of are just starting to learn a little bit about this guy, and especially how he knows about the lower floor of Lumen, that black hallway that he is obsessively painting over and over again, that as far as we know, as an outie, he shouldn't even really know about. So a lot of fascinating stuff. I feel like a lot of that was really set up for season 2, whereas this was really like peak Seth Milchick. We're kind of seeing him. He's taking over with Cobell gone. It's kind of his moment to shine. He's running that office. And so I really feel like we got a lot of great stuff with him towards the end. I loved every moment that they gave him where it was any sort of ceremony, when he's presenting the deviled eggs, when he's taking Dylan in for his waffle party, the music dance experience. He even like straightens up his gait. He's got like, he's a showman on like, this is his job. And on some level, he's as excited as they are when it's time for Mellon. And I love that he sort of brought that into it, and that his character's enjoying these experiences just a little bit along with the indies.
It's that intrigue, I think, that we have for really all four of our main characters that work at Lumen, because we're just wondering what would possess their outside to put them in here to get the operation, and then what are they still doing on the outside, because we get such a window into Mark's life, but not so much anyone else's as those layers are slowly revealed. I think these are two characters that were interesting picks because they're steeped in mystery, and the mystery for Milchick for me is what is that person's mentality, because we talked about the dance that he does. It's like sexy. And that this guy had a life doing something with normal people before whatever chain of events led him to work at Lumen. And so it's not the pick that I thought either one of y'all was going to make, but the argument that Milchick and the way that it's performed, so little on the page and yet so much sticking in our memory, plus the costume design of those short classic, like the short sleeve dress shirt.
The tie with the short sleeves.
Every leaf was turned over just so for that character. And so this is one of those where you see the outline and you're like, oh, really? That's who Lon is going with. I can't wait to hear this. Well, it earned Lon Harris his first point of the day, and we are tied after two rounds, meaning we're going to careen into round number 3. And your topic, there's a lot to choose from. The most shocking moment in Severance. Naz Perez, you have the honor.
I think for me, it was, at the 5-minute mark in the finale where Helly is in the elevator and the woman who we've seen been that's like, you know, a direct from the board literally says, oh, this is, you know, Helena Egan. And you're just like, what? Like, it was such a twist that was so unexpected. And like I was saying earlier, we just kept seeing all these historical references to the Egans and, you know, them walking through all the statues and all the computer sort of simulations that referenced it. But that was the payoff, right? Like, where did this all tie in? And another thing that I noticed is Helly was known as, I think, Helly R in her innie, but her outie is Helly Egan. So even the fact, just that little nuance of how they like changed the initial to her last name so it wouldn't throw her off or like click in her innie's head. I just thought it was so well thought out. And I'm like, where is this going? It was just an unbelievable payoff. And so for that, that was the most shocking moment for me where I was like, like, how would you even, we'll talk more about this.
If I had to assign each one of y'all like a job title just within this world, I would say that Naz is an Egan historian, and maybe Lon is more like corporate HR because he's more interested in the Milichick and of it all. But when you think about how excited your character Irving would have been to know he's sitting right across from an Egan, I mean, inside it's such a cool concept, and now it's something that, again, I think that this is a show that has a lot of rewatchability, and with good reason, because y'all clearly did your homework for this show today, which I appreciate. And now we go to Lon Harris. Lon, what shocked you most in season 1 of Severance?
I mean, it's at the end of episode 7. We get a big reveal. I had really thought for a while that they were setting up that Mark and Helly had a relationship outside of Lumen. It seemed in the early episodes, this might be a twist, like, oh, we'll discover, you know, Helly, they used to date, or Helly, he knows her somehow, or even before you knew all the stuff about the wife, maybe they're married. And I felt like they were kind of setting that up in some ways. So then they do reveal who was Mark's wife, and it's a different character entirely. It's Ms. Casey, who's sort of been doing the wellness sessions with them, this character who's been shrouded in mystery since the very beginning. I really did not see that coming at all, even though I kind of sensed that there was a twist coming with Mark's late wife. They kind of been setting up, well, he's hung up on this image of the tree because she was in a car accident. She crashed into a tree and that's how she died. They were setting up that there's some bleed over in his severed life with hangups about his dead wife. It made sense that was going to pay off in some way, but to have it be Miss Casey of all people, and then to deepen the mystery on that level, I thought was a real left field pick that they somehow still brought around and made sense. And then it sort of plays into the biggest remaining mystery on the whole show, which is what's the deal with the innies that don't have outies, that come from this training floor, sub-basement level that we don't really know about yet. That whole sort of side of it, and that big reveal that, you know, it leads to so many more questions about the nature of Mark coming into contact with Lumen in the first place. Are they behind the accident? Is this part of some even larger experiment? It's just such a tantalizing little thing to tease you with that leads you down so many more rabbit holes. I think that was the best shocking twist in a season.
Yeah, it was like watching a magic trick, because you get your controls and variables, or at least what you think your control is when you're watching a magic trick. It's like, okay, I know what that is. Now I'm watching the dazzling performance in this hand, but it wasn't really what you ever thought it was in this hand. And they did such a
clever job. Dylan in an early episode sets up, there's a rumor that there's a floor full of innies that don't have outies, that never leave Lumen, and then they drop it and you really forget about it.
Wow, I didn't even remember that line.
It's in like episode 2 when they're talking about the war between optics and design and microdata refinement. They're talking about all sorts of rumors that swirl around the Lumen office, and there's a line like, yeah, did you hear about the floor full of innies that don't ever leave the Lumen? And they never bring it up again. And then for that to be like, oh no, that one's true, and we only find out like 6 episodes later, is just a great example of how carefully they sort of wove all of this stuff together.
And that's why this show gets my ultimate honor of me hitting pause when I have to go to the bathroom real quick. It's like normally a show, you just kind of let it run. You can hear it okay in the next room.
But no, pause shows when you go to the bathroom?
You have to pause. If they're good enough, or live sports, I'll pause that too. You have to see you have to savor every little morsel that Severance gives you. Back to you, Naz Perez, for your rebuttal, talking about your most shocking moment.
Well, like I said, I was like, I just bring the phone in with me to the bathroom and I just keep going.
Also works.
TMI. So, Lon, you bring up a good point. Of course, that moment, and I'm going to be the worst participant in this game because that moment really is like the most shocking. But I will say, if we're talking about like presently, if I'm talking about like being present in the moment, yes, Mrs. Casey being alive and being tied to Mark brings up more questions. But again, I'm an empath. A lot of us know this. I'm more about emotions and feelings and how things make me feel. To look at Helly's trajectory as someone, we opened the season with her on a table who's just so rebellious and so like, no. And then sort of comes to terms with things, but the whole time she has like this inner conflict, tries to take her own life, is so like just mentally not okay. To see that actress, I have to say her name because what an incredible breakout role. Britt Lower, such an incredible performance. In that moment when they say Egan and her eyes go like this and they're going down in the elevator, I'm just thinking of like what a mind screw, right? Like everything that you hated, there's so many layers to this, and now she's realizing that the other part of her is a part of this. And then the moment that she has with her father in the bathroom, it just reminded me of like back to my sorority days where not only is she this person that she literally would her innie would kill. There's some manipulation behind this too, right? There's like this loyalty to the family that was sort of succession-y in a way. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like she had to do that. Like she's getting screwed over by her own family. And I felt like maybe she had to get severed just to prove her loyalty to the Egans. So maybe her outie is also a prisoner as well. And to me, that is just the most, because like another character being someone's dead wife in a show, we've kind of seen it happen before, but this was, as we said, this show is so original. This is such an original shocking moment that to me it is the most shocking.
Yeah, and it was nuts to see like it, because now you're just thinking about Dylan and can he hold on for that long, so we actually get to see her make it to the podium to give right. a very different speech than maybe the folks were expecting. Juan Harris, your rebuttal now for the most shocking moment.
I did real quick just to jump in. I loved how in the finale when she's walking around and she's seeing those kind of like Apple Store displays of like photos of her as an innie in the office, and you're realizing how artificial not only the innie's life is, but her outie's life is also this kind of set. It's kind of this set design, production design experiment, not totally authentic in a real way. But anyway. To go back to Ms. Casey, I mean, I think the one thing about the Helly twist, it was great. I loved it. Huge payoff. She's amazing. It's a great performance. All those things are true. But there was some legwork that they did during the show to establish, maybe not that Helly is an Egan for sure, but that Helly is someone very important behind the scenes, a true believer in what Lumen is doing, at least on the level of Harmony Coble with her Egan shrine at home. There's a scene where we see Helly's outie very briefly as she's preparing to like make that video for herself. And they're like, it's such an honor. We're so honored to have you here. It's so wonderful to have you and that you would do this. And that kind of, it doesn't maybe say Helly's going to be revealed as an Egan, but it's like, well, she's on the board or she's a higher up or she's a true believer. And then that's sort of reinforced by after her innie tries to kill herself, she still is insistent on moving forward. Like, no, you're not a person. I'm a real person. So you kind of have indications that she's at least with the Egans in some major way, if she's not one herself. It's still a great shocking moment, but there's teases. And I think that the Ms. Casey moment, there were teases that there were going to be more reveals about Mark's wife, but the reveal of who it was a real left turn that I felt like to me was more out of nowhere. And also the moment of the reveal where it's like his thumb is covering her in the photo, and then we see it, it's just shot in a really interesting way that kind of left it to the very last moment for this reveal before, boom, credits.
and we're both watching these reveals play out in the same sense, really at the same time with that season finale, which is one of the reasons why I thought it was such a good payoff. We're building towards these two things, and I'll point out now, I do have to make my decision at this moment without your final statement, simply because we're running a little short on time. So we're going to go to the speed round after this. But for right now, I'm going to say this is not just because Naz also pointed out how great Lon's argument was, that his moment was the best. I think that it's simply because the whole show, we know that we're going to get some payoff as to who Helly really is. Now, I had no idea she was an Egan. I don't really see a lot of stuff coming in shows or movies. But when it came to Mark's wife and who she is, we started to unravel some of the mystery a little bit, but we also just could have left that for season 2. We could have left that and have it never be explained. The fact that it's somebody that we actually know and we thought we knew everything about, that they were just another corporate drone living way under the stairs at Lumen, the fact that that is Mark's wife, it was maybe my favorite, most shocking moment in a series full of shocking moments so far in season 1. So Lon Harris gets the point and goes up 2-1. And here's how the speed round works. You each get about a minute, and then that's the argument, and I have to make a determination from there. And so I need you to put on your creative hats a little bit, because I'm asking you, what happens in season 2 of Severance? Now, this can be something that you think is actually going to happen. This is maybe where you think it should be taken. You have total creative freedom, and we are starting with your current leader, up 2-1, Lon Harris.
I'm fascinated by the board. I knew I was going to come up with a theory about the board, because it's a very Lynchian element, like this piece of office equipment, and there's some presence behind it that they're in communication with, who's also speaking through a woman wearing a Bluetooth headset, but we have very little information about who is the board, or even like what is the board. At first I thought there might be like a real like a big twist behind it. There was a while in early Severance where I thought we might be dealing with something satanic or infernal or Lovecraftian. There's all that like religious iconography and the Keir paintings, and there's that Egan shrine, and then the goats, and then the waffle party, of course. And now I feel like there's going to be some more of a sci-fi, because of the way that the show has sort of developed, and it's more of this technology, and they're experimenting with this technology. I feel like it's going to be more of a sci-fi explanation. I think the board is some kind of preserved consciousness of Keir Egan. He's no longer a human man walking around being a dude, but he's somehow still able to communicate his thoughts, his emotions, his feelings through this technology, either through that little speaker with the voice or through this like woman wearing the headset who he's talking to. I think that's what's going to be revealed, is somehow Keir is still running Lumen on some level, and that's why he's such a visible, viable presence within the company, more than just a founder.
I mean, hey, it worked for Palpatine, okay? We didn't know he was still around, and look what we got.
Somehow, Keir
so
Egan
crazy
survived.
you said that. I was literally gonna say that, Mark. We're the same person. I was gonna say
zombie Keir,
I was really gonna
Somehow
say go down for the
returned.
Keir Palpatine hologram that we're about to like, see. Wow, Mark.
Dark
but
cloning,
it's so funny.
Secrets only Lumen knew.
I literally I was like waiting to say that.
And as far as Lumen goes, it's an interesting premise you bring up there, Juan, because it's such an odd look at technology, because Lumen is clearly on the forefront of a bunch of technological breakthroughs, but they also, for their actual office, they still have like the old TVs you wheel in to watch stuff, like we would when our teacher was hungover and they just want to put on a movie instead of teaching. So there's a lot to unpack with Lon's premise, but now it is the speed round. So we go to Naz Perez for your minute on the clock to tell us what's going to happen in season 2.
Okay. Well, I will say I also love retro futurism. It's like my favorite thing ever. And that's why I like shows like Maniac on Netflix. And this is giving me like Maniac vibes. So I was kind of on the same page as you, Lon. Again, I think you should win this pitch. But remember when Justin Theroux, I don't know if you guys saw Maniac, and it was like the major computer that talked, like, I do think, I don't know if I'm not going to say the same exact thing you said, but I do think Keir Egan is going to be this sort of like, like computer in a sense, or Hal in a way. And I do think that we're going to see a little bit of that Succession type of HBO energy between the Egan family. I think there's going to be some manipulative energy there. We're going to see some crazy family dynamics. And I think we are going to get an answer in season 2 as to, I mean, obviously, as to who did Lumen want first? Was it Gemma or Mark? Did they fake Gemma's death? I'm predicting that it's Gemma, that they faked this car accident. They wanted her, but she had only agreed to do it if her husband was somehow like in Lumen, in her sphere. So she would be able to sort of still talk to him and meet him. And yeah, I don't know. I think the whole point is world domination. I think they want everyone to get severed so that they can, I mean, that's kind of obvious through like what Helly's father told her in the bathroom. Like, I think they just want to take over the world. And I don't know if it's like for war, or I don't know what that answer is. But I would be down.
It's something with pre-severed. Like they want to create people who are already severed or something. I don't know. It's got to be something like that.
Right. And I would be down to see some supernatural elements into this, like in the sense of like, remember Get Out, like the end of Get Out, where you're just like, whoa, what? Like something like that. Or I don't know if you guys watch Servant on Apple TV Plus, but we're like,
oh my
God, I love Servant.
So
we're like, we should do a binge battle on that. We're like,
Mark, Servant binge battle next. I want to do it.
Right, Lon? And you're just like, what's happening? But there's this weird supernatural element, culty thing to it. I think we're going to see some supernatural elements in season 2 that we're not expecting.
I was going to say, if you cannot handpick 2 better panelists anywhere in the world to talk about this show, really any TV show, than Naz Perez and Lon Harris. And because this is our show, but I do get to be judge, jury, and point giver. Here's the way I'm going to work this, because y'all both kind of were hitting on the same sort of topic, where you have, whether it's this consciousness or a supernatural element that sort of still has Keir Egan on top of things and running the show. What Lumen is actually doing, we're still unpacking all of that. But in the speed round, I'm just giving you both a point because you had great topics. But that means by default that now Lon Harris has 3, Naz Perez has 2, and Lon Harris, I don't know if this is Lon's first win, but I know it's one that he's going to win a championship belt to represent. Congratulations, sir. All the credit really to both of you, because this was such
I've never won a binge battle, I don't think.
I came pretty close on Ozark, but then I made some bold picks that didn't end up paying off.
I think you both win a music and dance experience and the waffle party. And I'm just going to say this. I'm going to be on the record right now. And I think in season 2, Irving's prophecy comes true, where all Lumen is actually doing is taking the bad words out of movies before you rerun them on TV. It was one of the comedic highlights of the season for me.
Real quick, just because we all love this show so much and it's just so good. What do we think the numbers are?
Ooh. I mean,
on their
I love that something.
You think those are people dying?
We get emotionally attached to them. We feel something, and that's why we put them in the trash bin. So these are questions that we're going to be asking probably next year. God willing, Binge Battle is still around, as is Severance, and hopefully we can get Lon and Naz back, because I know this: when Lon and Naz and I get together in real life, probably at a certain fast food drive-through, we are going to be talking a lot more about Severance and celebrating all that we got in season 1 and what possibly to look forward to in season 2. So that's going to do it for us today at Binge Battle. Quickly, Naz Perez, first and foremost, where can all the kids find you out there and all the wonderful things you do coast to coast and around the world?
Thanks, Fran. I am on Instagram at Naz Perez, NAZPEREZ. And I would love to hear your thoughts on Severance, because I love talking about this stuff. So please feel free to DM me and tell me all your thoughts.
And Lon Harris, where can all the kids check out the wonderful stuff that you're working on?
Find me on Twitter at LONS. That's the best place to do it. You can also tell me what you thought about Severance. I'm all ears. That's where I'll post everything I'm working on. I also have a podcast, Binge Boys. Me and Hal Rudnick. We watch Severance. We watch a lot of other TV shows. And then I yell at him about what I thought. And he's very nice to me in return.
Hal is a national treasure, as are both of you. That is your champion for today, the champion of Severance. It's a pretty impressive title. Lon Harris, worthy effort lobbied by Naz Perez. And usually we ask for streaming recommendations, but we got Maniac, we got Servant, we got a bunch of great stuff for us to binge leading up to season 2 of Severance. So that does it for us today at Binge Battle. For Naz, Lon, our expert engineer Christian Rubalcaba, his lovely dog Draco, Molly the Wonder Pup, Taco, and everyone else, all the wolves that Naz donates to generously. We are going to say goodnight for now, and we'll catch you next time right here at Rotten Tomatoes Presents Binge Battle.